Hello, everybody. We have a song playing that we are working on. And how are you all doing? I am excited to see you. This is one of those. There we go. All right. I have got Scott with me, you all, and this is the perfect time for him to be here because we want to make sure that you're all safe. Oh, and I can hear my voice, so I need to make myself be quiet on YouTube. There we go. All right. So, Scott, you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody why you are the number one guy to be here talking to us tonight?
Well, Jen, thank you so much. It's hard for me to see, but do you see the big smile on my face?
Yes.
And that is because I'm retired from the FBI. And one of the questions I get all the time is, Scott, do you miss the FBI? And I'm like, are you out of your mind, especially with everything going on in the world? I had an amazing 30-year career. Spent the majority of my time working cybercrime investigations, retired 7 years ago. Today, I go around the country. I have a new project that I'm working on with a new goal, which is to help keep 1 million families safe in the next 5 years. I wrote a book called The Secret to Cybersecurity. And I'm just here tonight to share what I learned during my decades with the FBI with one goal, and that is to not have any of your listeners become the victim of a cybercrime incident. And thank you so much for having me here tonight. This is
You
awesome. How did you find me, by the way? Well, I want to know about that.
I found you on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. That's right.
You were on LinkedIn. Yeah, and I reached out and we are okay, so there's been a comment that we are small. I get that we're small on here, but unfortunately, we that's how we are going tonight cuz we're oh, I can't hear you.
You're not supposed to hear me. I'm being quiet for once
Oh,
in my
there we go.
life.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong screen. Okay. So, there we go. I was looking at YouTube and we're delayed, and I'm like, oh no. Okay. So, yeah, I found you on LinkedIn and reached out, and I thought, oh my gosh, you are the man that everybody needs to see. So here we are. And you've got a bonus, which is the book, but it's not just a book, it's the audiobook, which is my favorite kind. I'm not going to lie. So this is so exciting.
Yeah, and for everybody who's here early and stuff and who's asking questions, I wrote a book called The Secret to Cybersecurity, which is a simple plan to protect your family and business. Now, if you're looking to read a good book by an FBI agent who saved the day, who's really technical and put a lot of bad guys in jail, I'm not your guest, Jen, okay? Because unfortunately, I didn't do that in my career. But what I've learned is after interviewing 1,000 cybercrime victims and probably even more, I discovered the real secret to cybersecurity. And that secret is most of my victimizations didn't have to occur. And I am going to give you my heart and soul tonight. And for everyone who's tuning in, I'm going to give you information how to connect with me. And I'm going to give you a copy of my audiobook and ebook as a holiday present because I don't want to talk to you as a victim. That's my goal, because when I talk to you and we're going to go into it, it's too late.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And we as when we were talking before, I was telling you I've actually given speeches a couple times on how to stay safe on the internet, and I don't know anything close to what you do. But every time I've talked to a group, there has been one person in that group within the last month who has given away hundreds or thousands of dollars. So, what would you
Oh.
say would be the main tip that people need to know to not get taken advantage of?
Well, let me just kind of backtrack it a little
Okay.
bit, and let me tell you the universal truths that I discovered, because I interview a lot of people and I want to go through these and I want to unpack each one of them with you. I call it the four truths about cybersecurity. And the first truth is none of my victims ever expected to be a victim. They didn't think they fit the victim profile. Why would anyone want to target me? And just a couple of months ago, I dealt with an individual, really brilliant guy. We'll call him Ben. Ben was a financial manager. He met someone on LinkedIn. They started talking about cryptocurrency investing. The bad guy really played with this individual in a platonic relationship, and through social engineering, tricked him into sending his life savings, which was $600,000. And, he said to me, he goes, look, I'm college educated, I'm a professional. I can't believe this happened to me. And Jen, let me ask you, with all the people that you talked to, were they all caught off guard?
Oh, completely off guard. Absolutely.
Yeah, they were all caught off guard. Now, if anyone's here and, in the chat or anything, and I know you can chat if you're listening in on YouTube. Uh, if anyone here has ever been the victim of an incident, I'd love to know about it. But it's not a really good thing. And this was kind of my career. And let me just tell you, I felt really bad about this victim who lost $600,000. It kind of broke my heart until a couple of months later, I dealt with another victim who was tricked in the same type of scam. And this individual lost, now get this, sit down for this one, $5.7 million in an investment scheme. And he said to me the question that so many of my victims say to me, and it's a very difficult one for me to ask. And it's, Scott, what's the chances that I'm going to get my money back? And Jen, what do you think of the chances that once your money is stolen, you're going to get it back?
They're pretty low.
Very low. And if your kids are victimized by sextortion, or if you are the victim of identity theft, which we're going to talk about tonight, once the bad guys commit their damages or hit your businesses or take your elderly parents' life savings. Now, I am 56 years old. I got a 22-year-old who calls me his elderly parent, so I don't want to get into it with age or anything like that. But the chances of law enforcement coming with a magic wand and making you whole is completely gone. I see we had a comment here. The original Alexa said 0%. You're right, and her grandmother was swindled out of $12,500 on the phone. Yeah, that's something we're going to talk about, Alexa, that broke my heart because, there's an expectation. And let me tell you, your bank's not giving you the money back if you're the victim of FDIC insurance. And, how do you think that makes people feel when I tell them that they're victimized, they're not getting it back?
So I thought that the FDIC protected you from things like that. No?
Well, yeah, the FDIC will protect you. If your bank suffers a bank failure, you'll get up to $100,000 back. There haven't been really a lot of bank failures, but not in the protection of fraud. And we're going to talk about it. And that's why also we're going to talk about the importance of using your debit card, your credit card over a debit card. So the bad guys steal your stuff. Now, this individual who lost $5.7 million was victimized by a scam called the pig butchering scam. Have you ever heard of the pig butchering scam,
No, I haven't heard
Jen?
of that one.
It's a cryptocurrency romance type scam where the bad guys got this guy. They found him. They used social engineering. They tricked him. They slowly bled him. And that's why they call it pig butchering, because he put a little bit of money in it at a time. And the next question he said to me is, Scott, will you put these bad guys in jail? And today, when I started as an FBI agent in 1995, it was really easy if I had explained to people, what's the role of an FBI agent? Bad people did bad things to good people. I worked with state and local cops. We put bad guys in jail. It was such a fun and exciting job for an FBI agent, and I loved it. But what I learned quickly in the world of cybercrime is the bad guys are located overseas. They're in Russia, they're in China, they're in Iran, West Africa, and the pig butchering scam is being run out of a lawless region of Southeast Asia by Chinese organized crime. And I hate to say it, putting the bad guys in jail is really harder than getting your money back.
Wow.
So let's kind of unpack this a little bit. And I retired in 2018. I've dealt with thousands of cybercrime victims. I've heard their stories, and in 2018, because people say, how did we get into this bad mess? When I retired in 2018, now I've been working these types of investigations full time since 2003. I dabbled in it in 98. We're talking 26 years of experience over here where I sounded like a brick, I sounded like a broken record. I'm telling people over and over again there's a problem. And, when I retired in 2018, I didn't think the problem can get any worse. It was a $3 trillion global problem. And today it's a $10 trillion global problem. So I want to ask you over here. I want to ask you: do you think the problem is getting better, or do you think the problem is getting worse?
Oh, it's definitely getting worse. Yeah. I can't
It,
believe, I watch some channels on YouTube where they try to get the guys that are scammers, and sometimes they can track them down, but yeah, there's not a whole lot they can do. And it is all in the Asian area. So yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, it's Asian, it's Russians, it's all over the place. I see Theru is on the line. There's a lot of these bad guys in India, right, Theru? They're all over the place. But here's the thing, and I want to ask everyone now, and I can see the chat, uh, which is going on. So let's get the record straight. Let's see where we are to this point.
Oh, wait,
The
let's
problem is
answer Darren's question because we've got new people coming in because we're in the shorts feed. So we are talking about cybercrime. And so Scott is a retired FBI cybercrime specialist. Am I saying that right? And he is telling us how we can stay safe because especially this time of year and well, every day of the year, but coming up when everyone's shopping and everything, he's got some great ways to keep everyone safe. So that's what we're doing. And he's telling us some
and
things that have happened.
let me just get everyone up to speed. Here's the deal. I retired in 2018. The problem's getting worse. I've been working this stuff for 25 years. The problem keeps getting worse year after year. My experiences with the FBI is after dealing with 1,000+ victims, nobody ever expects to be a victim. They don't think they have anything worth stealing. When the bad guys do impact you and they hurt your kids or your senior parents, or if your mom gets a telephone call from the IRS and she's tricked into sending $30,000, when that happens, you're not getting your money back and nobody is going to jail. So I would like to ask the audience here, how does that make you feel on what I just told you? Let me, Jen, why don't you summarize? How do you feel right now? You brought me on. You thought I was going to be a killer guest here today. And what did I tell everyone? The problem's getting worse. Bad guys steal your stuff. You're not getting it back. And nobody's going to jail.
Yeah, it's an awful problem. I tell you what, it really is. That's why you're
How do you
here.
think it made me feel?
Oh,
Well,
I
yeah,
see. I
but
can't
how do you
imagine
think?
that. That's the thing is that because when you go into law enforcement in any way, right, you want to help people and make it better, and not being able to make it better and feeling like your hands are tied had to be very frustrating.
It was very frustrating. And I'm going to be honest with you. It got me very depressed because, I joined the FBI to help people. And I really thought I was going to make a difference when I got into this early in my career. It was easy. You track money, you track IP addresses, you find the bad guys. But then it made it harder and harder. And every day, and I'll never forget this one instance in my career, I'm dealing with a victim who got tricked out. It could have been any of our parents. They looked online for a certificate of deposit, they looked for a higher interest rate and they found the website on Google, because if it's on Google, it has to be real, right? So they go to Google, they find this website, they find this bank, it's in California. They do what they believe is a little checking. They send money to the bank in California. Now, their bank calls them up and says, "Are you sure you want to withdraw $700,000?" And the victim goes, "Yes." He sends it to what he believes is a real bank. He wire transfers the money, and all of a sudden, the website goes dead. The banker doesn't answer the phone. We get involved. We start tracking the money, and the money goes from Tennessee to New York to Atlanta, and then we lose it in Georgia, the country of Georgia. part of the former Soviet Union. And when we have an FBI agent over there, we talk to him. He goes, this stuff's happening all the time. I get in touch with the victim. I'm sitting down with the victim's family, and their life's destroyed. You know, you lose $700,000, and this was a regular occurrence for me. You know, I'm talking to people all the time. Uh, and I'll never forget the victim family kind of was really, really tough on me. But, you know, I got paid. It was, we said in the FBI, we get paid the big bucks and we had to do it. But there they were going, you know, if this was your parents, you would have done this. What do you mean? You're the FBI. How can you not do anything for us? And at that point, I wanted to put my arm around the victim and said, if you just would have done these couple of things, you wouldn't have become victimized. That's when I realized that that's when I realized that almost all my victims fit the same profiles. They all had these same things in common, and that's my fourth truth to cybersecurity. That's the whole premise of my book. The secret to cybersecurity is that 90% of bad things easily could have been prevented if my end users were only armed with a few pieces of information. And that's been my crusade. So I retired on my 50th birthday in 2018, almost 7 years ago. I wrote a book. I worked on a startup that never took off. And then I started going around the country speaking the truth that, look, you don't have to be the next victim if you just do a couple of these things. And that's why I consider my life to be a passion project. I do what I love to do. And I've spent too long trying to help companies and help businesses, but businesses are made of people. And my goal here is to help people. And now I really want to kind of share into it. And, you know, and I see Darren over here is like, hey, I'd go back to hiding money under the mattress. And I get it, but you don't have to do that. And that's what, and the rest of the talk is going to be more about empowerment on things that you should do to
So,
keep yourself safe.
because it seems like what you're saying is that a lot of these people willingly gave money to the other people. It wasn't just
It,
taken,
it
right?
was all about social engineering. What is social engineering? Social engineering is being tricked into doing something you wouldn't do. And that is tricking you. It's like, and you know, I'm going to go through it because we all know, like, look, if you get an email from Boris Badnoff at cybercriminal.org with a file that says malicious attachment, we know not to open it. But I want to really kind of unpack it, especially during the holiday season,
Go for it.
and
I'm
really
ready.
and and really kind of talk to it. But I want to hear from you. You know, Jen, what I told you tonight, how does that sit with you?
Well, it kind of goes back to when computers just started because I've got younger kids at home and I've got older kids that are up to 35. And when my older kids, started going on the internet, I would always say, don't don't befriend strangers on the internet and trust them. You never know who they really are. And I feel like that advice applies to every story you've told so far. That you
Yeah.
don't give money to somebody you haven't met in person, or it's very clear who they are, period. That's just it.
Yeah, but they've taken it one step a little further. And let's really kind of play this out a little bit. We know we don't give money to strangers. Of course not. You know, you get the email. We don't give that away. But what do you do? Like, especially this holiday shopping season, what do you do when you get an email from Amazon saying that your package has been delayed in shipping or your credit card has expired? Or that let's say you get a text message from your bank saying there's been an unauthorized charge on your credit card. Please please click on the link and enter your username and password. What do you think happens when you enter your username and password for your Amazon account on what looks
Um,
like an Amazon website?
Yeah, but you always have to check it first and you check the link. You know, this is the nice thing about having an IT guy for a husband because he tells me all these things. You know, and checking the email. You have to check the email, and that's the secret too, is that people don't know. You need to make sure that it says thecompany.name.com and not something
Yeah,
amazon.bippity-boppity-boop.com, right? Because
I get it. And I know Dave's an amazing IT guy, but let's talk about something. This isn't an IT problem. This is a people problem.
yeah,
This is, you know, and not everyone has a Dave and Al in your life. So all of a sudden, what do you think happens when your senior parent
oh yeah,
gets a telephone call that appears to be coming from caller ID says Social Security Department? There's a problem with your account and you owe money, or it's the IRS, or you get a pop-up on your computer that says, hey, because you didn't update your browser, so it says, hey, this is, you know, Apple security, someone's trying to hack into your bank account.
well, you know, and what happened to a friend of mine very recently, actually, in another country, he um he met someone on a dating site and they did the same thing. And it was so sad because he had feelings, you know, and they took advantage of that and they took his money. And it was terrible, just terribly
It's a
emotionally
horrible thing,
devastating.
and you know what, and I go into that in my book. So what I want to do in the chat over here is I'm going to provide my email address, and we'll do this a couple of times over here because I talk about this in the book. And I talk about romance scams. And what I'm going to provide everyone tonight is the audio copy of my book. And I dictate and I recorded it myself, and it's also the ebook too, so you can learn about all about these different types of scams. And I really want to walk through because tonight I want to make sure that I bulletproof everyone. So if I had some time to go with my victims and sit with them, what would I tell them? I would tell them point blank, social engineering is the number one tool in the cyber criminals tool belt. It's not an email. It's could be an email, it could be a text message, it could be a telephone call, it could be an account compromise on Facebook. So let me ask you, Jen, what happens if you get a message from a friend of yours who says, hey, I've been trying to get in touch with you, my email's down, I'm having a really bad problem, I'm stranded, can you wire me money? Or can you get me gift cards? That is, you know, we're seeing so much crime being committed that way. We're seeing, you know, if you go to Google and you type in something as innocent as iPhone repair, you will go to the first hit on the website could be something taken over by a cyber criminal. And I've seen that happen where you think. So remember, social engineering, number one tool. Think before you click, think before you act.
All right,
Very,
we've
very
got a
important.
question too. We've got Mary's got a question. And hi, Mary. I'm glad you popped in. This is awesome.
Yeah, Mary says that, you know, sometimes scammers create fake domain names very similar to the actual company names and using the same physical address. How can you get around that and find the correct company? So here's the thing, and Mary, please jump in and communicate with us if we're not addressing it. But if you get an email that looks like it's from Amazon telling you that your package has been delayed in shipping, click on the link. Do not click on the link. Okay. And sometimes I get emails, you can't even tell. Log into Amazon, take a deep breath, log in, and see if there's a problem. Let's say you get a text message from your bank and it says that your bank, because remember, we all know about the emails. Um, but text messages are something. So if you get a text message coming from what appears to be your bank say, because here's how the scam will play out. Your bank or Visa or American Express will send you a message saying, hey, we realize that your account appears to be compromised. Did you just purchase this laptop in San Francisco for $2,500? So, Jen, what's the first thing that goes through your mind, or any of my listeners out there? What's the first thing that goes through your mind if you get this? If you get a text that says that?
Well, panic that someone's charging on your card, right? So you want to stop it.
Okay. Now there's no link to click. All there is a 1-800 number. What does the average person do?
Are they going to call that number?
Wouldn't you? Would you?
No.
Just think about it. You're in the
I'm
middle.
horrible. I don't call or text anybody, but I'm the wrong person to ask. But I know that most people would because they would
Most
panic.
people will do that.
Yeah.
And when you call this, you're going to get a voice prompt and it's going to say, hello, this is Visa. Please enter in your social security and date of birth. And now the bad guys have that information. And now you are the next victim of identity theft. Very, very big problem. So what do? You have the telephone numbers in your phone. If you get one of these emails, stop, take a deep breath. Remember what I said. Think before you click, think before you act. And even if you get them in emails, don't call the telephone number in the email. The cyber criminals are getting so good at targeting individuals just like us.
I get them all the time. I do. I probably get at least one a week, either email or text. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's why there are certain things on your iPhone that I highly recommend, that I have a setting that really will block telephone calls from people who are not on my address book. It will also move the text messages over, because you don't need to be answering telephone calls or text messages from people you don't know. And if it's that important, they'll call you until they get in touch, or they'll leave a voicemail. And even if they do, even if you get a telephone call, the law enforcement will not call you and tell you that you have a problem. Okay? They will never ask for money. That is something that we are seeing all the time. And, as it's starting to become the holiday season and it's getting a little cold out, one of the things that I always recommend is, we freeze our credit. Very, very important. Everyone should take the time, go to the credit agencies, especially here in the US. I see we got people from all around the world on the chat. In the United States, we need to freeze our credit. Google that, because there have been 3 very large data breaches this year. Uh, and there's been millions and millions of our names, dates of birth, social security numbers that have shown up on the dark web. And the bad guys can wreak havoc with that information. So freezing your credit, very, very important.
So I have two questions. One is for people that can only be here half the time, how do they get your book? And then the second one is, can you explain to people what freezing their credit means in case they don't know?
Okay. I have put out in the chat my email address, which is my full name, Scott
Okay.
Augenbaum at cybersecuremindset.com. And you have to say hello and say that you heard me on this show tonight. And that's it. And I will send you the link. I have it on a platform called Thinkific. I read it myself. I do not have it over on Audible. I just have been too lazy to do that. And it's just to help people stay safe. So that's very, very important. What was your other question?
Oh, oh, can you let people know what freezing their credit means for people who don't know?
Freezing your credit means you're going to contact the credit agencies,
I need to
and
know.
they will put a freeze on it, which means that nobody could use your credit to open accounts. And there's a way for you to unfreeze it anytime you need to do it. Because now, if a bad guy gets access to your name, date of birth, and social security number, he can go out and buy a car in your name. Now, I use a really cool product. I don't get paid to endorse them. I'll put it in when you email me, because we're going to talk that 90% of bad things easily could be prevented. I'm going to talk about that. My book covers it, but there still are a couple of other steps that you should take to have the most complete package to keep yourself safe. And I'm going to be honest, it takes work. It takes a little work. It's a little bit more of there's no such thing as an easy button. There's a lot of steps that we need to take. And as the big companies are doing a better job of keeping themselves safe, the cyber criminals are going after people like us, and they're exploiting seniors, crimes against people over the age of 55. That's the highest group. And then we're seeing a lot of sextortion type of incidents going towards younger kids. And I think I see we have a question from Lauren. Lauren says, my mom applied for a post office position and it said she had to pay a fee to apply. But then after a few weeks, she called the post office and they said they don't charge. This was confirmed to be a scam. I have a chapter in my book, Lauren, called Work from Home Nightmares. And this is something I've been talking about for 10 years, because you can't stop the cyber criminals. The cyber criminals are all over Indeed, Monster.com. They're putting these fake job ads up. And a lot of times, Lauren, and I would talk to your mom too, because, when they do things like that and they make your mom pay a fee, they probably asked for your mom's date of birth and social security number. So hit me up in the email. I'd love to just get a little bit more details with that. And David, if you can look up in the chat, I put it up a couple of things
Oh,
before,
here, I can look it up
uh,
too, and I can repost it.
and I asked Theru to look it up. Theru knows me very well. Theru must have been sleeping. It's I
Oh,
think 7 o'clock in the morning in India.
oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, and Mary says I didn't see it. Hey, Theru, you can type faster than I can.
There you go.
Theru, if you can put that in the chat, that would be
Okay. Yeah, I don't
great.
think for some reason it didn't go through. I don't know why, but
Okay,
awesome. All right.
I could have swore I saw it. All right.
But you know what's
Uh,
incredible is that I'm learning new things from here, and so this is great because yeah, this is so important.
I don't even see myself on the YouTube, but that's okay.
You don't see, yeah, I can see, but I can't watch it because it's delayed, and then it messes me up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So those are just a couple of things, and for the young lady who was talking about that. Just double check. Remember, no, you can get a work from home. You can get a real job and work from home, but these work from home jobs, the cyber criminals do not care who you are. They
You guys that are watching, I apologize. I have had a lot of people put nasty things in my chat, so we've had to put little blocks. So his email is going to be separated with the word at and put it together with the at sign like a normal email address, and then you'll get it. And so, yeah, you send him an email and just say, "Hey, I saw you on Jen's show," and he's going to send you the book and the audiobook and the ebook, and it's going to be amazing
I
because
I
these are
just got
this is
I just put it up again in the chat. I don't know if you were
okay.
able to see it. So, but we'll make sure it's Scott Augenbaum. But we'll make sure everybody gets this. This will be replaying and everything like that.
At okay, Scott Augenbaum at Baum.
cybersecuremindset.com.
Ah, that's what it is. Yep. So what I'm going to have to do is later on. Okay, I'm putting it in written out in a long way, and then I'll have a link in the description once the live is over. Um,
Yeah, and we've tried to put it up a couple of times, but somehow it keeps getting
it's
removed.
it's
Every
my it's the way I have it set up because Scott, I have to block a bunch of people. And if anyone can understand it, I think you can, because I don't know why we have such fascinating people coming through my life, but we do, and they put lots of interesting things. And for those of you who are new, because I can see we have a lot of new people, we are talking to Scott Augenbaum, and he is it Baum? Is that, am I saying that right? Baum.
Say it like a New Yorker. Yeah, Scott Augenbaum.
Scott Augenbaum. Thank you. Oh my goodness. And he is a retired FBI cybersecurity specialist, and he is helping us stay safe, not just for the holidays, but for all the days. And he has got stories that have, yeah, that are good and are teaching everyone something, because I didn't know a lot of the things. You're getting down into the weeds that, yeah, this is good. This is good information.
Yeah, let me ask you in the chat, how many people here have heard of something called two-factor authentication? Have you heard of it?
That was a question I was going to ask you, is it important? It's very annoying. Should we be using it?
Well, good. It's supposed to be annoying because there is a glut of usernames and passwords floating around on the dark web. So let's pretend for a second, Jenna, you and I, a Mac user?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, what do you think could happen if I got your username and password for your iCloud account?
Oh yeah, then you just have everything in my whole entire life.
Yeah. And what do you think would happen if I had it for your Gmail account?
Yeah, you'd have a lot of things I don't want you to have.
Well, and I see someone said the word I hate the word. I think it's two-factor authentication. I want you to love that word, David, because let me tell you, all of my victims didn't have two-factor authentication. And when the bad guys get in to your account, so and they do their damage, I want everyone here to remember a couple of things. Bad guys get into your bank account and they steal your money. You're not getting it back and nobody's going to jail. But in a lot of the cases, two-factor authentication would have prevented a lot of these bad things from happening. So when people say to me, I don't want to use two-factor authentication, I go, don't use it. I don't care. Because nobody wants the guy from the government telling you how to live your life, right, Jen?
Yeah. Well,
Until
the only
it's a
thing for
little
me is
too
when
late.
I go to one, well, like I go to get my email, and then it tells me to go to another email, and then it tells me to go somewhere else, and it's just annoying. But I see where you're going now, and I am going to love it a lot more the next time I have to do it.
Yes, it's a very, very important step that we need to do. Another thing that's very, very important in our lives is don't use free Wi-Fi uh, at the hotel or at when you're out and about.
I'm looking at you,
Uh,
Dave. I'm looking at you because we have a conversation about this all the time.
it's just, and in these situations, like I try to never use Wi-Fi. But let me tell you, there are times when I'm out, I need to jump on a Zoom and I can't get a signal, and then I'm forced to. That's why you use something that's known as a VPN, which is a virtual private network, which keeps your information safe. I don't really think you should, people say, well, you should use it at home. And I'm like, I don't use it when I'm at home. I only use it when I am on the road. Another thing that's very important, make sure you're using some kind of antivirus product on your computer. Very, very important. And don't get the free stuff. I use PCmatic at home. It's a great product. I also use Aura. We'll talk a little bit about that. There are so many choices, but you need some kind of Wi-Fi no, I'm sorry, you need some kind of antivirus. We can, because, at the end of the day, I am going to have this moment. I'm going to get an email from my kid's college saying that they just failed a class. And I'm not going to look at the thing because it came in on my iPhone and it looks really good. And it's going to say, click here. I'm going to be in a bad mood. I'm going to be running late. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click on it. I'm a human. And as long as you got antivirus in place, you're going to prevent the bad things from happening. We also have to remember we got to teach our family. We got to, you know, do things. We have to have this cyber secure mindset. It's very, very important. And it's one and done. You're not going to read my book and become an expert. You're not going to take a course. You have to have this mindset. And that's one of the things that we're doing with our new company, Stealth Family, which is trying to keep 1 million families safe. Because, you know, at the end of the day, I can talk until I'm blue in the face. I've been telling people for 15 years they need two-factor authentication. So I need to use real life examples and make you feel very, very uncomfortable to be able to help you just, understand. And that's the mindset. And, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm doing videos 3 or 4 times a week. I'm trying to do the same thing on my Facebook account and on Instagram. I'm trying to teach people that you don't have to be the next victim.
Yeah. And that's really, really important. So Lauren's asking, Apple says how they're unhackable, and she's asking if that's not true, if that's true.
Oh, Apple doesn't need to be unhackable. I mean, Apple. Nobody needs to hack a Mac. All they need to do is get your username and password. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this example. Uh, there's about 8 billion usernames and passwords on the dark web today. And let's just take an even number. There's probably 1 billion usernames and passwords that were from AT&T, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Hilton. I'm just going to pick on those. Those are 4 big companies. Let me ask you, out of those billion username individuals who had their accounts compromised, and let's say all billion of them changed their usernames and passwords, how many of them do you think, what percentage, Jen, or anyone in the chat wants to let me know, what percentage do you think have either an iPhone, an iPad, or an Apple Watch? Percentage
Decent,
wise, out of the
decent
billion
percent.
people. What's that?
A decent percent, because in the U.S. there's a lot of Apple. In other countries there's not, but is it half?
Yeah. So give me a number. Let's just narrow it down. What do you think? 10%, 20%, 50%?
40, 30 or 40.
Oh, 30 or 40. Let's go even. Let's go lower. Let's say it's 10%. I like 10 because that's a low number. It's probably more than 10, right?
Probably, yeah.
All right, let's go lower. Let's say 5%. What's 5% of 1 billion?
A heck of a lot of people.
Yeah. And out of those people, I guarantee you 99% say, I got a Mac. Macs don't get viruses. But 5% of 1 billion is 500,000. Okay. Maybe even more. I don't even know. No, I think it's like 5 million. It's a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
like you said, it's a lot. 66% of the population is using the same password for those types of accounts. So now the bad guys just start taking the usernames and passwords for those other accounts and they start popping them. And most people don't have two-factor authentication on their iCloud. And now nobody's writing viruses for these things anymore. They don't need to. It's all about social engineering. It's not having the same password. That's why having a password manager is so absolutely important in today's day and age. It's just very, very vital that you have, these are the things that I can't really do for you. I have a chapter on how to create good passwords, but you need the password manager. You need the VPN. You need the antivirus product. You can go out and buy them all yourself. I use the service. It's probably the price of a cup of coffee, not a Starbucks cup of coffee a day. I'm talking about a night, I'm talking probably for about $30 a month. You're getting the peace of mind and everything like that. You can do it all yourself. but it's just having all these things that are easy and available for you. And these are things, but I don't care. You can get that. Now, if there's someone on here today who says, I use a password manager, I use a VPN, I also have antivirus. It's still not enough. You got to do the things in my book that I talk about that everyone here is going to get a copy of it. That's why it takes a little bit of work to be able to do that.
And I texted you
And I
the
see.
email address to make sure it's right, and then I put it in the description of the show so that oh, you can't get it because you're on your phone, but for later, just to make sure I got it right.
Hold on. Let me pull up. Let me
All
pull
right.
up my text over here
And then if you're
and see.
here, you can just go in the description of the live and it's right there so that you've got it. And again, I apologize for the the lockdown. Um, but I have in there that people can't leave links
Now,
because people will leave links to nasty things.
hold on 1 second, Jen.
All right.
You got the domain wrong. It's cyber secure mindset.
See, okay, so nobody
Okay.
clicked out, nobody sent an email anywhere yet. All right, let's fix this
Yeah,
here.
not yet. So it's Scott Augenbaum at cyber secure mindset.
All right, there we go. All
Or
right.
you can go to cyber secure mindset. It should look like this. If you see this picture, if it's in Chinese characters and Russian characters, don't enter and just hit contact me or go to Scott Augenbaum at that. And anyone who reaches out to me
All right,
will get a copy of the book. And,
perfect.
someone said to me, they go, Scott, why are you giving away your book? And I'm like, I've had instances where I've been in front of 500 people and I gave everyone access to my book, and 10 people took me up on it. And I said to myself, yeah, I used to get really frustrated, but I was like, hey, at least I helped 10 people.
Yeah,
That's I have such a great life. I love what I do. I make most of my money by building training programs for large organizations. It's not the fulfilling work, but it pays amazing. I'm going to be honest with you. I love to help people because I get hit up every day on LinkedIn and Facebook by people whose lives are destroyed, and there's nothing I can do to help them.
there we go. Link from the site works. There we go. We got it.
Okay.
Awesome.
And if you go to the website, just, say contact Scott and just send me your email. You don't have to put in your phone number. It's okay.
Beautiful.
I don't
Yeah,
want it.
everybody, I
It
am so
came with the
glad that you're
website.
here. This is so good, Scott. Thank you so much. If you've just joined us, we are learning how to stay safe online and at home and on our phone and all the places because there's way more to it than you originally thought, and it's really way too easy for them to get you. So, but if you follow
So
what
let me
Scott's saying, it'll help.
Yeah, let's kind of recap a little bit over here, just for anyone who's tuned in late. Let's just really kind of talk about the fact is, during my decades with the FBI, interviewed 1,000 victims, couldn't get most of anyone's money back, couldn't put the bad guys in jail, and realized that 90% of it easily could have been prevented. I wrote this book called The Secret to Cybersecurity, a simple plan to protect your family and business from cybercrime. And it's really a simple plan to protect your family. I'm into protecting people, and anyone who contacts me goes to the website. I'm going to give you a copy. I'm going to teach you what it took me 30 years to learn about in the FBI. And that's that most cybercrime victimization easily could have been prevented if my end users were only armed with a few key pieces of information. And what are the big takeaways? What should people be doing? They should realize social engineering is the number one tool in the cybercriminals tool belt. It's more than email, it's text messages, it's telephone calls, it's clicking on links. We have to really be careful about the romance scams, and that anytime you're going to get a call to invest in cryptocurrency, it's probably a scam. Go to Coinbase if you want to gamble. But most of the scams, your money doesn't even get there. A majority of the population is using the same password for multiple mission critical platforms. We cannot have the same password. So, and I see David's very active in the chat. He claims he's an IT guy, this David character of yours. You need me to do a background check on him? You need me to talk to him? I'll go talk to him. Hey, David, so I want you in the chat. Tell me, what are mission critical accounts? And you too. What are the five most important accounts that after what we talked about, what do you want to protect? Let's
So
start
what do
with
you
you.
bank,
Yeah.
right? Health.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I mean, definitely my Apple account. I feel like that is my whole life is
Ooh,
with that.
very good. Your email, your
Yeah.
social media. You know what would be another account you might want to protect? Any of your socials, such
Yeah.
as uh, your name. You know what? I had a situation that occurred just recently. Someone didn't put two-factor authentication on their GoDaddy account. Cybercriminals got into the GoDaddy account and locked them out of their domain. That's kind of scary.
It's
What
very
if you have
scary.
any locks or alarms on your house? Those types of things, and I really kind of talk a lot about that. I have another little guide. Anyone who sends me, I'm going to send you a bunch of deliverables. If you have any questions, please ask because I can talk about this all day. I got one goal here today, and that's to share with you what I learned during my decades with the FBI so you don't have to be the next cybercrime victim.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, Scott's been talking about people who have lost hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, and not because they went and hacked something. These people willingly gave criminals their money. And that is why he's here, so that you don't do the same thing. Because
Mhm.
I cannot imagine. Can I ask you? So there's a scenario, I can't figure out why these people did this. They, I have a friend who's her son lives a few hours away from her. Some criminals of some sort had gotten his voice and talked to her as though they were her adult son, and said he had been in an accident and he had hurt someone severely and he was going to jail. And then they put a police officer on that said, "Yes, he's going to jail. You need to come immediately." But they didn't ask for money. And then she drove 2.5 hours across the state to go to his house to make sure to help or whatever. Why would they do that?
There's some very mean people in this world, and one of the things that we talk about is setting up a family question. I have sat down with my family and I said, listen, if you ever get a call from a police or you get this, first of all, they're not going to call you, okay? If there is a problem, someone is going to show up at your house. Always keep for your loved ones, keep the Find My iPhone on, okay, so you know where your people are. I've had this with my kids. I'm like, it's for your own safety, it's for my safety. And have a code word, a
Yeah, we
silly
have a code
question
word.
and
So
silly answer.
important, especially I
Well,
feel like with kids now for safety. When we were kids
mhm.
and you went to someone's house, if there was an emergency or if people were being creepy, you could go in another room, pick up a phone and call home. But you can't now. They're stuck. You have to have a code word. So if you have to call in front of someone, you can say, "I'm having an emergency." I don't know. We've always had one. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
too easy.
absolutely. There's so many little things that you need to do, and it's really a combination of the right education, the right technologies, the right technology partner. And when you shoot me an email, I'm going to send you the stuff that I use, that I live for, that I have for my friends and my family, because there's a lot of little things that we do. One of the services that the package that I use has, it screens my calls for me. So if I get a call from someone who's not on my caller ID, it's going to say, state your purpose. Now that's going to block all the robocalls from calling you or anything like that. It's going to block a lot of the stuff from the caller ID point of view. Very, very important. We also have to know what our kids are doing online. We need some kind of parental controls. I wrote a chapter in my book about keeping your kids safe. It's so important to have these kind of discussions with your kids, for parents to be involved, because we're giving kids these iPhones at the youngest age. And that's why, I'm building training out for parents. It should be coming out pretty soon. A digital parenting guide. I just built an entire training package for seniors that I have in place at a senior assisted living. So that's my goal. That's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing, is being a content creator, writing more books. Really, I'm on the news quite a bit. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm giving advice all the time on how to stay safe without spending money. Do you need to spend money? Yeah, I don't want anyone to have the misconception that you can get away with not spending money. But if you don't do what I tell you to do for free, doesn't matter. So it's my education, it's my book, it's a technology platform that helps you to. You got to do something. You just can't sit here. And one of the things I want to tell you, hope is not a strategy in cybersecurity.
Yeah,
It's
definitely
not a
not.
strategy. You can't hope that nothing's going to happen.
No, no, and like I said, earlier, I've taught. I mean, I don't know anything like what you know, but I've taught things to people that didn't that knew less than me, and every group had someone that lost money. So every single and within the last month, it wasn't even at some point in their lives. It's crazy. Lauren's asking, how does one get a job with the FBI? What types of branches are there, and what are a few job details from? Oh, this is a very intense
Hey,
question.
read that again because I'm going to get the charger for my phone. Okay?
Okay. All right. So she wants to know how to get a job with the FBI and what are the different branches and some details. I don't know, Lauren, if we have time for all of those, but we could talk about how one would get it, where one would go to get a job with the FBI. That would be great. And if you're watching and you could click subscribe, that would be fantastic because Scott is bringing on the value here. And there is a link both in the chat and in the description for his website. You can go. He's going to give you a free book because he just wants you to be safe. And I think that is
And,
awesome.
and Lauren, I'm going to answer it quickly here today, but you can hit me up. FBIjobs.gov is a really good place. It's the FBI's website. In order to be a special agent of the FBI, and we have 11,000 special agents, um, and probably about 32,000 professional support employees. To be an FBI special agent, you need to be between the ages of 24 and 37, 4-year college degree, 3 years of work related experience, pass a rigorous background check, and be willing to go to the FBI Academy for a 20-week academy and carry a gun. That's not for everybody. Who's kidding who? I got in when I was 20 years old as a support employee, as a file clerk, and when I was 26, I had the qualifications. But there are a lot of different entry level positions and professional support positions like computer scientist, intelligence analyst, operations assistants, evidence technicians. Greatest job in the world. I loved it. I was so proud to be an FBI agent. And and I really just I can't say enough about it. I'm just looking at a couple of comments. Someone said, "My family and I really enjoy all your videos. Thank you." But I did look at the person's name, and I was like, "Is that
I know
real?"
I saw the look on your face, but you know what? I appreciate people being kind, and it is very nice to be kind. So thank you.
No, especially from that person.
You know, that's the one interesting thing about you. There's all kinds of interesting names. It is after 10, and we can continue for a few minutes if you want to. Um,
I'm okay. If anyone has
if
questions,
if you're
I
good, yeah.
mean,
If
I
anybody
had
has
a
any last minute questions, bring them on, and then we will get going. So we're talking about cybercrime. I know we got some new people joining us, and yeah, if you want have any questions about how to stay safe on the internet and all that, and Lauren, oh good, I'm glad you like that answer. That's good. I'm sure that he could talk on that for an hour as well, but yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, this has been really enlightening. I have to say, it really has. And I so appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I love that this is your goal to do this everywhere. I think
I just, I'm at the point in my life, I'm blessed because, and let me just tell you, I got the job with the FBI because I was raised by a single mom in New York. I graduated high school in 85. My mom just did the best she was capable of doing as a parent. And when I went from ninth grade to 10th grade, she was just excited. And when I went to community college, she was happy. And when I graduated with a 2.27 grade point average, I wasn't, really on the path to success. And my mom, being a forward thinker, she did something that we're told today not to do. Don't fill out stuff for your kids. Let them do it themselves. But my mom filled out an application for me when I was 20 years old to be an employee of the FBI making $5.50 an hour as a file clerk. I remember my first paycheck, $329 after working 2 weeks. I was living at home and I was surrounded by professional people I had a whole roll of father figures. I went back to college. I worked my butt off and I didn't want to be an FBI agent. I went back to graduate school. Uh, I went back to graduate school. I was ready to go into the private sector. And then my boss had me put in to be an FBI agent, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But I don't look back and I don't regret it. And Lauren, asked, what was the hardest thing you faced working in the FBI? I came in, I was 27 years old, a gun, and I went to the FBI Academy almost 30 years ago to this day. I was down at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I had a lot of nights where I was running off of adrenaline, did some crazy things. Like I said, a gun, a badge, a bulletproof vest, playing cops and robbers as a young kid, being fearless, breaking down doors, catching fugitives, working with a team. I wasn't doing this on my own. But when Lauren said, what was the hardest thing you faced working with the FBI? I'm going to say the last 10 years of my career was very difficult working cyber. It wasn't physically exhausting like the other side was. It was mentally exhausting. It was exhausting dealing with victims and feeling so helpless that you couldn't help them until I had that epiphany and I realized that most of it could have been prevented. That's when I realized that, I had the ability to help people. I retired at age 50. That was 7 years ago in January. I could have stayed. Like, I'm still young enough now to be an active duty FBI agent. But I left a job I loved. And why did I leave the job that I love? Because I knew I can do more for people outside the FBI, and I can provide for my family. And I was there for my kids when they needed me the most. When my younger boy was in high school and he was going through his challenges, and I drove him to school every day and I went to the gym with him, and now he's thriving. So now this is like the contribution of my phase of my life, where you can sit here and you can do what you love to do. You can do what you think you're good at. You can do what the world needs, and you can make a living doing it. So that's kind of my story, everybody. That's who I am. You get the raw version of me sitting in a pair of sweatpants and a black t-shirt in front of my Christmas tree.
I love it. I love it. That is so inspiring. It really is. You know, that people can, you can. This is what I love to tell my audience too is that, find out what you love to do and do that thing. Don't be afraid to pursue it.
And life is a journey, in order to be successful. I mean, honestly, to me, for the past 7 years, I felt that as an entrepreneur, I have failed more times in the past 7 years than I have in my entire life. And that's something that I wasn't used to because, when people talk to me, they go, oh my God, it's so easy. It's so successful. You just do what you love. But you don't know building roads and building businesses and, the frustration that I get sometimes because sometimes I feel like, sometimes I don't feel like I'm making a difference. Sometimes I
No, you're
just want to
making a
throw in the
difference.
towel. Yeah, so
But I think, tonight I'm sure that you helped at least one person. And that's the goal, right? One person at a time. So
that's it.
Thank
Well,
you.
great. Well, everyone,
Awesome.
make sure you connect with me on my website. Thank you so much, Jen, for you and your wonderful audience.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's been great. And there's a link to his website in the description right at the very top. You can't miss it. Click on it. You can get his free book. You can get all this information. You all don't want to miss out. And you don't have to pay. I mean, it's legit. Like this is this is
Yeah,
legit.
listen, listen. I'm gonna send you a link. You know, you're gonna click. It's gonna be to Thinkific. I'm gonna give you a coupon code. If you don't want to use it, you could pay for it. I don't care. You know.
There you go. All right. Oh, the Lauren, you're welcome. And I am so glad that you got to be here. Okay. You'd love to see a part two. Well, there you go. Maybe he'll come back. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody. Mwah. I love you all. You're amazing. And we are going to go now because it is so late. So, yeah, if we find out how we leave this wonderful place, that would be really interesting um, to do because we've got new software.
Sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, we've had this conversation. All right, everybody. I
Ah.
love you. We'll talk to you later.